quick video on a Dragon 32 that I'd picked up at the same time I was picking up a jukebox. A guy had it in a massive warehouse. I noticed it to the side. I said, are you looking to get rid of it? And he said, yeah. No power supply. He said last time he tried it, it was fully working. But when I got it home, I found that there was no 5 volts. So it's been stored for a few months. So I thought I'd drag it out, have a look at it. There's the note on there that says when I did my initial diagnostics, I just couldn't get it to boot at all, and it didn't look like to be any 5 volts at all coming from the power supply. This is a known good power supply. It's got 8.5 volts and 28 volts, both AC that it supplies, and then via what looks like a serial pin connector into the Dragon. But then the separate power board in the Dragon then converts that to various voltages. And my initial diagnostics, when I couldn't get it to turn on, suggested there was no 5 volts at all. So I've repaired the board now, and I'll go through what I did in a bit, but I'm just checking the voltages again. So pin 4 and 5 is ground. Pin 1 should be plus 12 volts. So just putting the negative probe with the voltmeter in pin 4 for ground. Pin 1 should give me plus 12 volts, which it does. Pin 2 should be plus 5 volts, which is good enough. Pin 3 should be either minus 5 volts if it's a Dragon 32 or minus 12 volts if it's a Dragon 64. So now getting the right voltages. And I'll show you what the issue was with this board. I initially thought it was this transistor. But I took the transistor out, checked it, and that all seemed fine. You can see the plus 5 volts here on the bottom, pretty much. The second one from the left as you're looking at the rows of the pins as they on the header. Nice big thick track that goes all the way to the transistor. So that's why I thought that part was suspect. But it wasn't, and what I should have done is, just the way my brain works, I guess, I should have diagnosed it from where the voltage was coming in. And when I did test it, what I found is that the AC volts, the 8.5 volts, and the 28 volt AC, just wasn't there. There was a little bit of voltage, but not much. And also what I noticed is that as I moved the board, the voltage changed as well. And having a really good look, and you can maybe just see it on the board, there's a hairline crack on the board. So what the repair is, and you can see it in the top of the picture now, is I've had to scrape away some of the traces back to the copper, and then jump the crack by soldering from the pins of the connector onto the traces of the board. So I'm just going to put it under a microscope to try and show this a little bit better. But you can see there's a hairline crack running along the board past that pin there, and then these are the pins where the power supply connects to. And you can see that crack pretty much straight after the pins. And what I've done there is just bridged over the crack. So scraped away some of the solder mass back to the copper, and just had to bridge between the pins from where the AC adapter comes in onto those copper tracks. Once I did that, that was it. That was the power sorted. I was getting the voltages that I expected, and I was able to boot the Dragon again. This is a bit of another close-up just of the repair itself. You can see the crack and the repair in that shot. But I guess the computer being subject to some force, and near where those screws are, it had caused the board to crack. But that wasn't the end of it. So the computer booted. Next test was the keyboard itself, so I just ran along the keyboard, and I found that some of the keys didn't work. Thought, okay, it probably just needs a bit of a clean, maybe work the keys a bit. But when I started looking at and it's a PCB, it's not a membrane for the Dragon 32. When I started looking at which keys were failing, I noticed they had a common ground signal, and tracing the tracks back on the keys that were failing, they all went back to the same point. And you can see here there is another crack in this PCB, so again near a screw, but in that corner. And what I've had to do to repair it is just scrape the tracks away back to the copper and bridge the crack in 3 places there, again all around that screw. As soon as I did that, that was it. The keys worked and tested out fine. So 2 cracks, one in the power supply, one in the keyboard. So obviously something, I don't know if it had been dropped, or I presume it's been dropped. If something had been put on top of the computer, you expect case damage. There's no case damage at all, so maybe it was shock damage. But that was it. Once those tracks had been repaired on the keyboard, we had a working Dragon again. So all that was left to do is put the case back on, type out a simple program just to see if it stress test it a bit. So this just draws random lines on the screen. Once it focuses, there you go, one happy Dragon. So yeah, two faults, both stress cracks to PCBs. Hopefully this video may help you fix similar faults on your Dragon 32. Thank you very much for watching.